Hey everyone, this is Grandmaster Ben Finegold here with Kid Chess, and another fun game from one of my favorite player, Paul Morphy. Now, uh, when you look at the position on the screen, you should notice something pretty funny. You guys should all be looking. What do you notice that's funny? Well, white doesn't have a queen's rook. That space is empty. It's not a mistake on my part, though it could be. It's actually how they started the game. And actually, this is what makes chess fun, is you can play odds games. If you have a chess timer, a chess clock, you could play an odds game. Let's say you're playing somebody and you always win. And you're like, well, that's not fun. I always win. And they're like, that's not fun. I always lose. Well, you could play an odds game where maybe you take 2 minutes and they take 10 minutes. They have 10 minutes to 2. That makes the game more fair because you always beat them. That doesn't work. You can play an odds game in the chessboard, which is what Paul Morphy did a lot. Paul Morphy was a lot better than everybody. So sometimes before the game started, he just took something off and said, okay, let's play. So if you have a friend who beats you all the time, maybe take their queen off before the game starts, then we'll see if they beat you. If they still beat you, well, take some more stuff off. Okay, so Morphy has the white pieces, and he's already starting down a rook. Okay, Morphy played e4 like he always does. And he played the aggressive Scotch gambit. He played d4, which is the Scotch, and after takes, usually they take back. But Morphy wasn't concerned about pieces and pawns. He was concerned about his opponent's king. He wanted to checkmate his opponent, and he's already down a rook, so we got to get a lead in development. So he played bishop c4. He doesn't care about that pawn. He cares about getting all of his pieces out. Okay, and black played bishop b4 check. That's a pretty good move. c3, attacking the bishop. Again, Morphy doesn't care about pawns. Morphy cares about checkmating his opponent and getting all of his pieces out because he's already down a rook. So instead of taking back on c3, he just castled. Okay, and now black played the very greedy move, not a move that I would play. C takes b2, getting another pawn, but developing white's bishop, and now white has a big threat. So white has 3 pieces out, black has 2 pieces out, and white's castled, and white has a threat. So white's getting some attack for the fact that he doesn't have a rook on a1. Okay, and now black didn't know what to do. How do I defend my pawn? Okay, and he chose a very radical way to defend it. You could play pawn to f6, blocking the bishop, but that's dangerous because then it makes it really hard for black to castle. Play king f8, which defends your pawn. Well, then you can never castle. So he played a funny move defending his pawn, bishop f8, retreating one of the pieces that he developed. So now white has 3 pieces out to 1, and white castled, and it's white's move. So that's dangerous. White played e5, stopping the knight from coming in. d6, attacking the pawn. Now white played rook e1. He's trying to get at that black king. Notice how Morphy uses all of his pieces to attack. He does that almost every game he plays. All of his pieces are ready, and this is where black's pieces are. Now, of course, you're like, wow, white's playing great. White's getting all his pieces out, and black only has 1 piece out. Well, that's why white took his rook off before the game started. He said, I'm a lot better than you. Let's make it more fair. I'll start without my rook. And the chess computer still likes black's position because black has an extra rook. Okay, now black made a risky move. He took this pawn, opening up his king more. And now actually white has a winning position, but white missed a winning move here. Okay, luckily for us, he missed the winning move because that way he got to do something spectacular later. Lucky for us. What he should have done, this is a very common trick that you should know. If you don't know it, you can learn it this game. Sometimes the queens can take each other. And in this position, bishop takes f7 check is a good move. Normally, if the king takes, we take the queen for free, but the queen's defended by the knight. So in this position, after takes, we play knight takes pawn check. And it's funny, you can't take the knight because you lose your queen, but the computer says you have to take the knight. If you take the knight, then I win your queen, and white's winning. If you don't take the knight, then your king gets in a lot of trouble, because you're going to have to walk your king into the rook's attack or into the bishop's attack. So not taking the knight's even worse. Your king is just too exposed. So Morphy should have played bishop takes f7 check, and actually the computer says black should go here. So black's in a lot of trouble, even though he's up a rook. Okay, Morphy didn't do that. Morphy played even more spectacular. He played knight takes e5, and black couldn't wait to trade queens. He's like, oh boy, the queens are off the board. Now I won't get checkmated. And Morphy said, no, I don't want your queen. I want your king. Take your queen later. He played bishop takes f7 check. Okay, now black made a bad move. Black should have played king to d8. Okay, but he played king e7, which is worse. And now Morphy played a tricky move, and his opponent couldn't figure it out. So Morphy won the game. Morphy played something called double check. That's when two pieces are checking you at the same time. He played knight g6 check. It's not only check from the knight, it's a check from the rook. Okay, so you can't take the knight and you can't take the rook. You can't take both pieces. When two pieces are checking you, you must move your king. There's no way to block two pieces. There's no way to capture two pieces. And when you're in double check, it's always a discovered check. The rook wants to attack the king by moving the knight. It's a discovered check, and it's a double check. And now black made the worst move on the board. The worst. Couldn't play a worse move if he wanted to. Okay, his king has the following squares. There's 4 squares. It's like the game Foursquare, but not really. Okay, you can't go to f6 because of the bishop. These 3 squares are all okay, and if black goes there, black's position is okay. But like a lot of people, even today, black was very greedy. He didn't want to move his king to safety. He wanted to capture things. So he did. He captured the bishop. He probably thought, well, for sure Morphy's going to take my queen now. I'm up a queen. But there's something better than capturing a queen. That's checkmate, attacking the king. And here, white has checkmate in one move. Do you see it? Let's see, white has 2 moves that are check. One of them is checkmate. Let's see if you can find it. The answer is knight takes rook, knight takes h8. That's checkmate. The game's over. The king can't go to the e file because of the rook. The knight's checking the king. The king can't go to g6 because of the knight. And once again, the king can't go to f6 because of the bishop. Another example of one side not castling and getting their king in trouble, and the other side castles as a safe king. Not getting his pieces out. Terrible. So Morphy, even though he started down a rook, he sacrificed his queen, and he accomplished his goal of checkmating his opponent's king. What an amazing player. He was very good at sacrificing pieces and attacking his opponent's king with the remaining pieces. He was really good at that. Maybe the best ever. Well, that was an exciting game. I hope you've learned by now you should probably castle. This is Grandmaster Ben Finegold for Kid Chess. Bye, everybody.